everybody. Welcome back to another episode of RoTKast, where we talk about all things Star Wars, and boy, do we have an episode for you today. I am your host, as always, Sean. With me here is my lovely partner in crime, Aaron.
Hey. How's it going?
It's fine.
You enjoying 2020 so far?
It's a year.
It is. But it's a year where we'll be getting more Star Wars, so that is exciting. A few things. We have a few things. Not as much as we've had. Well,
last year
we had two new things. We're having two new things again.
I mean, what do we have? What am I missing? We have Clone Wars and then
Mandalorian.
Oh fuck yeah! Yeah. Damn, you're right. I forgot about Mandalorian season
2 coming out at the end of the year. Can't wait.
Speaking of Clone Wars, I think our subject of today is kind of Disney, Star Wars in general, and the first thing that we definitely got to mention is Clone Wars, because the new season comes out in late February. Is it February 21st? February 12th?
February 14th. I don't know the exact date. You can look that up.
It comes out in February. They just dropped the new trailer, the trailer, recently. Super excited about it, and this is like for real, man. Like watching that trailer, I'm just like you and I both went to go see the Clone Wars movie when it came out in theaters, because it's Star Wars. We had to see it, no matter how
at that point we were
geared toward children. It is.
Yeah, and we had just graduated high school too. Right?
Yes, so I think so. I think so.
A couple years removed from Revenge of the Sith, and
right.
that was the last Star Wars we'd ever get, and then blammo, they come out with
and
the
then boom,
Clone Wars movie, and that was awesome.
Not gonna not watch it. I mean, come on. But I mean, it's really like it was. It's a kid's show. The movie it wasn't fantastic, but again, I was still entertained. It's Star Wars. It's lightsabers. You get to see stories and characters and planets and stuff that we never really seen before. So whatever. But this season, this final season, like this shit's for real, man. Like watching that trailer, I was like, whoa, what the fuck is going
on what, Wednesday? Thursday, or no, today's Thursday. They dropped it on like Tuesday.
I think it was Tuesday.
I gotta say, man, I am so excited to see this season. And you're right, I did look at it. It comes out February 21st. So we're
21st. All right.
Just over a month away, or under a month away. And I mean, it's also on that sweet app that you can download on the Google Play Store. I think it might be one of the top downloaded apps so far this year.
What app is that?
According to Google Play and the way it looks.
No idea what you're talking about.
Disney Plus, yeah. You can find it on Disney Plus. So that's going to be sweet.
Disney has a streaming app?
They do. Yeah, they have multiple.
I didn't know that.
Apparently. Anyway.
Well, you should probably get an iOS, though, because I heard the Android one sucks.
I've heard it's dope.
I heard it
iOS
really
is dope
sucks.
Too, so download it on your local stores.
Whatever.
Anyway. Yeah, so it's coming out in a month, and that trailer made me just, I can't wait for it.
Dude, I'm super excited. Like, and they like Darth Maul like opens, and you can just hear his voice, and he's kind of like doing the narrating thing. It like definitely brought me back to the Force Awakens trailer, like the there's been an awakening, like that whole like, and he's like the I don't remember what the fuck he says. Everything will be different. The plan. Whatever the fuck he's talking about. I don't know. Darth Maul when
I don't remember.
Well, you have a shit memory.
He's talking over a lot of it and talking about things are going to be different, and everything leads up to this, and I don't know what that's going to be.
So remember our favorite episode in the Clone Wars, which is, I just watched it. I think it's called The Traitor, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But essentially, Maul is on Mandalore with Savage Opress, and Palpatine is like, all right, I need to go take care of this bullshit. Goes there, kicks the living shit out of them, like with ease.
He's just toying with them the entire time, like
just toying with them. Kills Savage.
He could have killed them both so easily. He
chose not to kill Darth Maul and said, "Oh, I'm not going to kill you. I have plans for you." So, and we never really heard about like what those plans were. What happened after that? We're definitely going to find out what that was, and I feel like they're going to incorporate the whole Order 66 thing being very much involved with Darth Maul. Like Darth Maul was like helping to like, I don't know. That's just kind of like my initial thoughts and predictions. But
one thing that I think kind of along the same lines, I don't know if it's going to be if he's involved with Order 66 or if he's part of the contingency. Like maybe he's actually working for Palpatine while he's doing that Black Sun stuff or whatever at the end of Solo. You know,
Black Sun, is that what it was called?
I don't know.
The Black Sun.
It may not be. That might be something from like old canon. I don't know, or old like expanded universe stuff.
Whatever that crime organization was in Solo.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe that's part of Palpatine's plans, and he's doing that at the behest of Palpatine. But one thing you mentioned Order 66, and one thing that I don't know if it was just an expectation I had, but I kind of thought that maybe the Clone Wars season 7 would just end right into episode 3, right? That's kind of what I was expecting.
Right, and we got to the end of season 5, which is the last season we got, and it's
6.
Like
this is 7.
This is 7? Was 6 the one that was just like Netflix only? I thought it was 5, and this one was 6. This is
7. This is definitely 7. So
whatever. That 6 was like it ended like where Yoda went to what that now they're calling Moraban, which we all know as Korriban. And you see Darth Bane, and Darth Bane officially was made canon, whatever. And it ended with Ahsoka walking away from the Jedi Order, and we're like, okay, well, what about all the other stuff that happened leading up to the very beginning of episode 3? Because we all kind of assumed, just like the old Clone Wars cartoons, like the original Cartoon Network Clone Wars cartoons, the last episode was General Grievous kidnapping Emperor Palpatine and taking him to his ship orbiting Coruscant, and that's where episode 3 picks up.
Yeah, so
kind of what we were expecting, and it looks like hopefully that's what we're gonna get.
I mean, I don't think we are. Actually, I
really
can almost confirm that we're gonna get more, because actually we can 100% confirm, because it obviously goes in. It actually, some of this obviously takes place during Revenge of the Sith. Right?
How is it obvious?
Because there's a scene, I don't know if you saw, but where Padme is Prager's. She's totally Prager.
Oh shit, you're right.
Yeah. So
and Anakin doesn't find out until the beginning of episode 3.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So what I'm kind of hoping, like, I don't know, will we see some Order 66 stuff? We do hear. I think it's Rex. I don't know if it's Rex, but someone says
I think it's
clones have mixed feelings about the war, right?
But if it wasn't for the war, they wouldn't exist. Like that's their reason for existing.
So you know, I hope to see that. Now thinking about it, I do want that to happen. I want to see what happens with Rex and some of the other people. Does he actually survive? Is that him at the end of Return of the Jedi? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I want to see what happens with these characters, and I think that's what's like. Because if it just ended into the final battle or the beginning battle from episode 3, it would be kind of annoying. We would be like, okay, what the fuck happened to Ahsoka? What happened to?
Honestly, I really didn't think about it that much. That's kind of what I expected, but like. That would be dope if they went like further into, because we don't really, well, we do know what happens to Ahsoka. We see her in Rebels, so like we don't know about all the stuff in between, but ultimately we know what happens to her in the end.
Yeah, so
we do get that closure at least, but yeah, there's so much stuff because she's not in episode 3 at all. Like she was an invented thing when the new Clone Wars cartoons came to fruition. So
yeah, Sky Guy.
You know,
you think we'll hear Sky Guy at least once?
I hope so.
God, I hated that so much.
I really did too. I remember when we watched that movie, we were like, you don't talk to your Jedi master like that.
So
like, what the fuck?
Like,
that's not a thing, man. That's not a thing. But it's a kid. I mean, it's a fucking cartoon. It's a kid's show.
It grew on me. It did a little bit.
It did. And I love Ahsoka now. She is like the kind of the purest, like one of the purest Jedi. Like she left the Jedi Order because she didn't believe in what they were doing. Like Jedi, that's not what they're about. They weren't meant to be soldiers. They weren't meant to.
She says that in the trailer, right? They're meant for like, protecting, not for being soldiers in war.
Exactly.
Like, well, I mean, they're not. It's not like they're killing too many living things. So at least that's good.
They try not to, but that's literally everything. Everything that they're doing goes against their whole belief system. And she was like, "No. This is what I signed up for. I gotta walk away." She had the balls to do it, and her character is like definitely grown on me and blown me away a little bit.
Maybe some of the other Jedi should have done that, and they would have survived Order 66.
Probably. I mean, I guess we'll find out how she survived, because she definitely comes back. to the Jedi in some fashion. We don't know if she officially rejoins the Order or what's going on.
I don't think so. I bet she's kind of on her own. She does have lightsabers, because doesn't she give her lightsabers to Anakin when she leaves?
You know, it's been so long.
They weren't the
don't
Kirby
remember.
Stuff, but then she has the Kirby white ones or whatever in Rebels, doesn't she?
She does, and that was going to be my next point. Did you read the Ahsoka book?
I did.
So I wonder how much of that will spill over into this new season.
That is a good question.
Because I haven't read it, but my brother has, and he was like talking to me about it and was telling me how she gets those white lightsabers.
Do you remember? Because I do not.
I think she defeats. Ooh, and I might fudge this. I want to say she defeats Darth Maul without lightsabers, using the Force. She pulls the crystals out of his saber with the Force and somehow purifies them. Because, you know, like the whole thing about kyber crystals being red is that you have to bleed them. And like by killing an innocent or whatever, the crystals bleed, and that's why they become red. That's why all the evil lightsaber wielders have red lightsabers. But she was able to pull them out of the lightsaber, purify them, and because they were bled crystals that were been purified, that's why they're white. Something along. I'm probably fucking this whole thing up, but that's what I remember.
Like something. So I did read it, right? And it sounds like something we'll have to talk about. Like we'll do one of those holocron data dumps, the first of 2020, and maybe I can listen, because I have it. I bought it, an audiobook, so maybe I can listen to that, and we can do it before Star Wars Rebels or Star Wars Clone Wars comes out. But so that it is interesting though, because we do know that they're going to battle,
right? So that's like where I was getting to, because like I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, they definitely battle in the Ahsoka book. So like, is that how much? I don't remember.
So maybe they're going to overdo that, or it's going to be something. Maybe I don't know, because in the trailer he says, all of this has come to this moment, and my assumption is that's what he's saying to her when they're about to. Yeah, but we also know that he
has a double-bladed lightsaber again too. Yeah, let's not forget that, because he didn't have that.
And I didn't notice this. I saw it on Reddit, but he has a lightsaber, and in the lightsaber, it's like clear around the crystal, so you can actually see the crystal. It looks pretty dope. So, and
maybe that's why she was able to pull the crystals out. And
that's what made me remember that, is that you said that, and so maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but that'll be interesting because we know that they both live, right? Because Darth Maul goes on to Solo, dies in Rebels,
right?
And then
and Ahsoka's in Rebels,
and we don't know what happened to her after that.
Very curious to see how they're gonna pull all that shit together.
Yeah, what's the best thing about season 7 for me though is we get to see more Obi-Wan and Anakin. I can't fucking wait.
Yeah,
seeing more Obi-Wan. We get to see more Obi-Wan in like a year or two. I don't know when it's coming out, but with that, we get to see Clone Wars Obi-Wan. Yeah. My favorite fucking Obi-Wan like outfit and shit. Oh, I just can't wait.
I love Clone Wars Obi-Wan. I love the dynamic between Clone Wars Obi-Wan and Clone Wars Anakin. Also, I'm hoping that we get like more of like the peek into Anakin's descent into the dark side kind of deal. We see a few glimpses of him looking really fucking evil. I loved the episodes where they kind of dove into that a little bit more, like when they went to that planet and there was that sister and the brother and the father, and they were kind of like representing good, evil, and the balance. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, and that was actually
that went into the whole.
The son was originally thought of as one of the main villains in the sequel trilogy, but
that's right.
Kibosh on that. So
right.
I get it to some extent. Like you don't like that is something hardcore Star Wars fans make, but then you just come up with a new character that's Snoke. Like why can't you come up with use him, and then maybe he was helping pop? Like I don't know. We'll talk about that in a few. But
yeah, but the new season comes out soon. I'm super pumped. I'm also, you and I are talking about this a little bit, but I'm also curious to see whether or not they're going to take the one episode a week approach or the here's everything, binge the fuck out of it approach. Like, Netflix is really the only one that's doing that anymore, to be honest. Like HBO, Disney, Hulu, they all do the 1 week at a time.
I think Hulu kind of changes it up a little bit. I think they do.
I guess it depends on the show, right? Like,
and I don't know. That's despite being on the team, I literally have no idea when things are being released. Like when everyone found out that Mandalorian was being released on a weekly schedule, that's when I found out too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they clearly keep that shit under wraps.
So that's not something I can, spill the beans on. And
yeah, sure. You're just pretending. You're just fucking pretending. No, you wouldn't.
I though this is straight up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or do I? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't fucking believe you.
But yeah, I kind of hope it's week to week. I really do. I like it a little bit better.
What makes one? It builds that.
I think of like Game
anticipation
of Thrones, right?
a little bit more.
If Game of Thrones was released on, up until let's not talk about season 8, but like episode or Game of Thrones was like the show that we all got together and watched, right? We had people like
every single week, man.
People, 20 people in a room, like watching it at someone's house, and it's like you wouldn't get that on. You wouldn't be able to watch the whole season with all of those people. You know what I mean? Like you would go home and watch the entire thing. If it dropped at 9 p.m., you would stay up all night and watch it. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
Oh, 100%. I would watch it.
So
I wouldn't stop
it within a few hours. I'd be done within a few days, and then
the whole dynamic of the show has just changed. If you release the season all at once, the fact that it was one episode at a time. It makes the investment is so much more important, so much more crucial. You get you have that sense of commitment to this thing. You're like, oh my god,
yeah. And I know Netflix does do that for some,
which in the end pissed me off because it. Whatever. I don't want to get into it.
I know Netflix did do that for some. I watched The Circle, although I watched it after the fact, but they dropped it. They dropped 4 episodes every couple of days. I think it's like. It's a stupid reality show. I'll tell you about it offline. But
okay. That's still not the same thing. Like they're still like mass dropping. Here
they at least have the capability baked into the app to be able to drop it off at any time. You know what I mean?
It just seems like the whole drop it everything at once and binge the whole fucking season is definitely going away.
I don't know if it's going away, but because I think they have their places. I think the episodic storytelling, like. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that I literally spent all Sunday because they dropped it at like midnight Saturday night, but all day Sunday, Nora and I watched The Witcher, right?
Oh,
and I after the fact, I was like, okay, imagine me coming up to you and being like, hey, do you want to watch a 9-hour movie? She'd be like, no, get the fuck out of here. But,
yeah.
Just the binge watching.
But you know
binge
what?
Watching is fun, but I prefer with things like Mandalorian. I would and with Clone Wars, I'm kind of hoping it's that way where it
increases the importance of the show. You know what I mean?
I would like to watch it all at once.
Oh yeah, I get pissed when the episode ends. I'm like, what the fuck? I gotta wait another goddamn week for this shit. But think about this: how much bigger would Stranger Things have been if they released one episode a week? Like, because obviously that show is huge, but it's huge for like a couple weeks until everyone's seen it, and then it goes away because you watch it all in one sitting.
This is actually a weird stat, which I thought was pretty cool, is that Mandalorian ended up taking the crown from Stranger Things, even up till October
which
November, the crown of most streamed show per like week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So even through November, Stranger Things was up there. I mean, you got to think about it. Netflix has 150 million subscribers. You know what I mean? That's insane. I don't remember the numbers, but the numbers
that's a fuckload.
Yeah, the numbers were huge for like.
But
Disney
how
Plus,
much higher would that?
Like, it's not even touching that. You know what I mean?
How much higher would that number be consistently week over week if they didn't mass drop shows like that?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean.
There's probably a lot of people
hooked for a longer period of time. Like, imagine if Disney Plus just dropped all the episodes of Mandalorian all at once. People would have binged it, and then
amounts of people would have
canceled
free trials.
Yeah, exactly.
You get a week free trial, right?
You get the week free trial, watch all Mandalorian, and stop the week free trial, and then you lose all your subscribers, and you don't make as much money.
I mean, that would happen. A lot of people, you got to think, especially these days with streaming services being so, like, there's so many, right? You got Disney, Netflix, Hulu, there's the Peacock one coming out, the WB's coming out with their own, whatever.
What the fuck is that?
NBC's app is called Peacock.
Oh.
Yeah, stupid. But anyway, there's a lot of those, right? So you got to think about the fact that, not everybody's going to buy all of them. So some people may buy them in spurts, right? Okay, this show's coming out. I'm gonna buy it, watch it, cancel it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And when you do, if you drop them all at once, then
that's more incentives for them to buy it, watch the thing they want, and then fucking get rid of it. Like
exactly. Although then people can wait 2 months and then buy it, watch it, cancel it. But
I mean, you know how many people I knew who only subscribed to HBO when Game of Thrones was going on?
Oh yeah.
So they got money for 10 weeks instead of 3 days. Everyone binges it and then fucking dumps it. It's just that model I feel like is definitely more beneficial from a business. Dude, even I found out recently, even DC has their own streaming service. Did you know that?
I didn't know
DC
that.
Comics?
I heard about the Harley Quinn.
The Harley Quinn show. Oh my God.
Did you watch it?
I've seen 6 episodes. I watched them in like one sitting.
See, that's one where I would buy the DC streaming app for like a month. Watch that and
get the fuck get rid of it. Yeah. I mean,
I would explore, obviously. I mean, maybe something's really good and there's gonna be
sure.
But in general, that's what I think. I don't know. We're getting out of Star Wars, but like, I don't think people complain about there being too many streaming services. I get it, but it's a la carte, dude. That's what I've been wanting the whole time. Do you want Netflix and Disney Plus now? Okay, sure, get it for a month. Watch.
It's one thing you lose with cable. You don't get out.
You can't do that with cable.
You pay cable, you get these channels, whether or not you like it.
You just can't do that with live sports yet.
That's the one thing that's definitely missing from all this shit is sports, dude. Like the only reason to really get cable nowadays is so you can watch sports if you're a sports fan.
Yeah, but even with like YouTube TV and shit, you know, they still stream like the main, but you can't get some like ESPN stuff, but sometimes you can. I don't know.
At some point, like I used to think that this was awesome, and it still is, but like at what point does it become worse than cable because now you're paying more money for
that's
more
what I'm saying.
things. You can everybody has their own
you want, don't want, right?
That's true.
There's no reason for you to have Sling, YouTube TV, and Hulu Live all at once. Maybe true. I guess maybe there is. Maybe there's a channel that's on Sling that's not on Hulu, but then I don't know. Just buy.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about the whole a la carte aspect of it, but I mean, I guess that's kind of the whole idea behind it.
Anyway, so let's bring it. Let's reel it back in to Star Wars topics. And yes, we're super excited about Clone Wars. I can't wait. We're gonna do the fucking Ahsoka thing. I'm gonna make that my next book. I'm finishing up a book now. I'll put this next.
What book are you finishing up now?
Not Star Wars related. Actually. It's called Merchants of Doubt. It's actually pretty cool. If this was like Joe Rogan's podcast, we'd go into that now, but we're not. Anyway, so Clone Wars. We'll do that. I want to rewatch most of Clone Wars. I'm not going to be able to rewatch all of them.
Not before the new season comes out for sure. Like that's not enough time.
Maybe we'll watch
it might be enough time.
A YouTube video recap or something. And
I'm going to watch as many of them as I've already like gone through instead of like picking out my favorite episodes and watching those like the Palpatine.
Yeah, we watched that a couple weeks ago.
We did. But there's a couple other ones in there that I definitely want to rewatch. And I would love to like actually sit down and do that whole chronological order thing that you found, like not watch them season 1, season 2, season 3, but actually watch them in the chronological order that they actually happened.
Yeah, that I think that would be pretty cool. But it would be hard to break that up into chunks, like with watching it in the order they released, you can, break it up into season, whatever, but
just 10 episodes at a time, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
So this whole getting back to the whole Disney Star Wars theme.
Let's talk about Clone Wars and Disney, right? Like Clone Wars, when it was under Lucasfilm's control, they released a few seasons. Disney bought it. They canceled a few things. They
that's right.
Broke off LucasArts, which was a disaster. Not a disaster, but
it was a fucking disaster, dude.
True shame.
It was a fucking disaster. That happened like when they were like in the middle of doing
1313.
Was it 1313? Because they also were trying to do Battlefront 3.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but
you don't remember that? No. I remember seeing footage of Battlefront 3, and then it was just no more.
Yeah, there was footage of that 1313. I guess kind of like Jedi Fallen Order is kind of almost a successor to 1313 and what it ended up becoming in terms of the gameplay, not necessarily the story, but
yeah, I mean 1313 was like Uncharted but Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's kind of what Order reminded me a lot. I feel like
there was some of that with Fallen Order, but anyway,
there was for sure. There were elements in there that kind of felt that way.
And then
that was a fucking let's call it what it is, a fucking disaster.
Yeah, they should never have done that. I mean,
travesty.
Was a classic video game company. Like that's another thing. Like George Lucas, I feel like had such a mind for that. Like he did the merchandising rights, to have full 100% control over merchandising, and he made a fuckload off of that. He started LucasArts very early on, like the 80s.
Yeah.
And almost every game he put out, or that they put out in the 80s, wasn't even intellectual property. I think the first one was actually because Star Wars rights were given or were sold off to other companies, right? So LucasArts didn't even make a Star Wars game until the 90s. Their first like Lucasfilm thing, I think, was Indiana Jones game, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, really?
So they, and then you get like Super Monkey Ball. There's a few other games that are like super popular, and that character at the beginning of each Lucasfilm or LucasArts game is like the gold.
Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah, it's like an old game.
No, I know Super Monkey Ball. That was made by.
Yeah, dude, that was
LucasArts.
Yeah.
What?
Pretty dope. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, the little character, the little yellow dude, where he do like the little like sun thing over over his head.
Oh, Gold Man, I think is what they call him.
Yeah, that was awesome. We had such a long period of time of so many fucking good Star Wars games. And then since LucasArts got dissolved until now, we've had Battlefront and Battlefront 2, which were both kind of dumpster fires a little bit. I mean, they've kind of salvaged Battlefront 2 a little bit. They've actually made it a lot better and have introduced a lot of new content, but because of the dumpster fire it started out to be, I haven't come back to it.
Yeah.
And then we did get was Force Unleashed part of after
no,
that was before. See? Okay, there you go. And then we got Jedi Fallen Order, which is like the one saving grace.
I mean, it wasn't like a perfect game, but I love give me more of those. Do not stop giving me Battlefront.
100
I do have to
fucking percent.
Correct myself. I'm dumb. I mean, all like 4 of our listeners were probably laughing at me right now. It is not.
What'd you do?
It's not Super Monkey Ball. It's The Secret of Monkey Island.
Okay, I was gonna say they didn't do what Super Monkey Ball? That seems like okay.
And also, the first intellectual property from Lucasfilm, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is not Indiana Jones, but it is Labyrinth. Isn't that a Lucasfilm movie?
It is a Lucasfilm movie. Labyrinth with Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie.
Yes.
Yeah. Fucking love that movie.
That was their first intellectual property game. Came out in 86. The Indiana Jones one came out in 89. So
they made a game off that?
Yeah, dude. Labyrinth, the computer game.
What?
They were really.
I love that movie.
Games. Anyway, so they canceled, LucasArts. Then they, I believe, almost immediately also canceled Clone Wars, right away. But they had that episode, that other season that did not go to Cartoon Network. I mean, Disney has it. They're like, we're not fucking giving this to Cartoon Network.
Which one?
The last season. Didn't that just
season 6.
Wasn't that on Netflix?
It was on Netflix only. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's the exact reason, but I would imagine that's why it wasn't on Cartoon Network. You know what I mean? Because the original Clone Wars were on Cartoon Network.
That makes a lot of sense.
So,
when you say the original Clone Wars, that's
yep, the original weren't those also on Cartoon Network?
They were both on Cartoon Network.
Sorry, the Lucasfilm second Cartoon Network was on Clone I said that backwards. The Lucasfilm Clone Wars was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's probably why it was on Netflix, because they signed the deal to them. But
that makes a lot of sense.
So they did one season. It was one and done. We kind of felt like it was a cliffhanger, and that was those are the first 2 mistakes that I feel like I do want to preface all this with while Disney may be my employer. Employer.
These views
and nothing that I say represents any view outside of this box that is this kitchen. I mean,
dude, nobody listens to this. It's fine.
Podcast studio, not a kitchen.
Yes, this is a podcast studio. What the fuck is the matter with you, man? We have a high class studio. There's glass on all sides. We have sound dampening foam on all the whatever.
Anyway,
have you watched that? This is a little bit of a sidebar, but have you watched that documentary on Disney Plus? The Empire story, whatever. Fucking fascinating, dude. I loved it. I learned so much about it that I never really knew. Like George Lucas was like kind of the pioneer for independent filmmakers. Like the reason Star Wars was Empire of Dreams. The reason Star Wars was so good is because he did not surrender creative control over to these studios. The one thing, he sunk so much money and so much of his own personal shit into these movies to make them what he wanted to make them, because the studio was just like, nope, that's dumb. You're not going to do that. Nope, we're cutting that. Nope. And he was like, well, fuck you guys. I'm not doing that. This is a story I want to tell. That's why they were so good, is because he never surrendered control. As soon as, and this kind of is a good segue into what we really want to talk about. As soon as fucking Disney, this is in no way opinions about Disney. This is my own opinions about Disney Plus. As soon as fucking Disney got a hold of Star Wars, they kind of destroyed the fucking shit out of it, man.
Well, okay, I don't think that's the case at all. First of all, one thing I do want to like. Right now is one of the best times to be alive for Star Wars, right? There's much cool stuff, content coming out. There's books, there's comics, there's games now, actually good games. There's Clone Wars, there's Mandalorian.
We've got one good game in the last 10 years.
All they did, I think they fucked up a lot. I think the worst thing is they killed off, the most important thing. I think they fucked up real bad, which is the trilogy, right? Outside of that, granted, I'm like, that to me is okay.
True. I mean, like Solo and Rogue One were fucking masterpieces.
I loved Rogue One.
They were fantastic. And you know what? You said like this is a good time. It's a good time to like be a Star Wars fan because there's a lot of content. But if the content that's coming out is shit, is it really that great to be? But again,
5 movies
to your point,
TV show, and I'm assuming. Come on. I'm speaking prematurely. Clone Wars is gonna be awesome. So imagine those.
I assume Clone Wars is gonna be awesome. You know, I think I'm maybe a little overreacting a little bit. The trilogy just makes me so infuriated,
and that's what I'm saying. Like that is the most important thing, though, right? Not the most important.
It is. It's the most important thing.
You think about like where we were left with Return of the Jedi, and you got these people, these awesome characters that you came to love over the course of, if you watched them in theaters over the course of what,
40.
Yeah, so 6 years. And then
from 77 to 83,
and then
was it 80? Oh yeah, 83.
And then you get another 6 years of, well, first of all, you get like the expanding universe starts in kind of the early 90s, and you start to see these characters that you grew up loving over those course of 6 years to be these awesome, like they're carrying on the tradition. They're facing their own
so many good
trials and
too.
Tribulations,
So many good stories in the expanded universe. There's so good.
There's so many bad stories, but there's
some bad ones, but there's a lot of good ones.
And then you get another 6 years. Well, first of all, you get a re-release, so like you get to introduce your kids to these characters that you grew up with, and these kids become obsessed, like we did when we went to go see them in theaters. Like the re-release of the original trilogy, where some of the special effects were shit, and it was dumb that they made some changes, but you got to introduce your kids to that, and then a whole new generation of kids was able to enjoy that in theaters, and then another 6 years of a backstory to that trilogy. Like, who is Luke? Where did he come from? Oh, who was Darth Vader? How did he get to the point he was? You know what I mean? So then there's these 6, and while the prequel trilogy is maybe not thought of as like the greatest
as movies and as from acting and writing standpoint, not awesome, but
from a Star Wars standpoint, I fucking love
Star Wars. I mean, we grew up with them too, so I feel like we're a little bit biased, but. Dude, we got introduced to all these new things. This is also like a really big milestone because we got introduced to like what politics is like in the Star Wars universe.
I want to do a whole
it's a really big thing, man. That's huge.
Politics and in the Star Wars world versus politics in the real world here. I want to do a whole episode about that at some point. I feel like there's so much
to dissect, and that was something that if the prequel trilogy gave us anything, it's an insight to Star Wars and how politics was, and then like that's a big thing. I mean, it's like a I feel like a lot of people don't think about it that way, but I think that's like a that's a huge contributor to the Star Wars universe that the prequel trilogy gave us that we didn't really have any insight to prior to that. And
we can laugh at Jar Jar and all that, but and I get it, and we can laugh at Ewoks and stuff like that. But the thing is, to me, that was all cohesive together. That was a story. There were some plot holes, some things that maybe weren't explained, whatever. But then
maybe a few, but not very many.
It was all now, and it was just they took a shit on Return of the Jedi, on the original trilogy. They just took a shit on it.
They took a shit on the original trilogy. They took a shit on the prequel trilogy. Each movie took a shit on each other. On the other movies.
The trilogy within itself shit on the previous trilogy, and each movie shit on the previous movie within the trilogy.
And it's such a travesty because I've seen so many interviews and watched videos and read things about people who went to go see Star Wars in 1977, and when they went to go see it, coming out of it, life was different. It was there was after Star Wars came out, it became before that it was oh, you are you're this race, you're that gender, you're this sexual orientation, you play with this toy, you watch this show. It was after Star Wars came out, it was people who've seen Star Wars and people who haven't seen Star Wars. It was a really big deal for so long, and this new trilogy, I just feel kind of shit on everything.
Here's the
that has
what do you,
that, that
so what do you think about
we
this,
all
though?
believe in.
I totally agree with you, because I think they took a shit on Luke's legacy. They squandered the fact that they had all three of them together, the originals, Han, Luke, Leia, the actors, and I feel like they squandered that. But what do you think about when growing up, or while we were in high school and stuff, we were watching the prequel trilogies, right? And I remember a lot of people shitting on the prequel trilogies. Oh, they suck, but the Phantom Menace didn't do that well in theaters, even though it was the first Star Wars movie in fucking almost 20 years.
Yeah. Are you about to say, do you think that people will think that way 10, 15 years from now about this trilogy?
What I'm saying is, there are young people today watching this and becoming obsessed with what they did. I do think that's the case. I think there might be sections of fandom within the Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars fans are pretty fucking toxic. Anytime you get to a large, as large as Star Wars is, you're gonna get toxic fans, right?
I mean, famously, nobody hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
I mean, that is literally the subtitle of... Well, that should be the subtitle of our podcast. No one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Rule 2 podcast. No one hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans. But you know what? Here's my problem. The original trilogy was its own unique, one-of-a-kind, never-before seen story, effects, whatever it was. The prequel trilogy was, again, its own story, its own characters, its own... plot lines, its own locations, everything. This sequel trilogy is just a retelling of shit that we've already fucking heard about. It's bringing back all the characters obviously it's inventing some new ones, but it's bringing back a lot of characters we already know about. It's retelling the same overall underlying plot lines that we've already seen. They didn't do anything new, man.
And there's
and the one movie that they did try to do something new, a lot of people fucking hated because it didn't make sense from the story that they started in episode 7, and then it totally canceled out when they did episode 9. It's just, the whole thing is just fucked.
I just wonder, maybe maybe it's just too big of a thing to come into, right? I remember reading reports of there were a lot of directors that didn't even want to touch it because they didn't want to be the people that ruined Star Wars, maybe there's just, but no,
so much pressure.
Because, look, I keep going. I think I go back to Marvel as a thing. It's a little different because it's not as old in terms of movies and all of that. But over the course of, 12 years or whatever it was, they, maybe it wasn't the idea at the very beginning when they did Iron Man. I don't know, but they brought it. They had a cohesive story, and I'm sure there is. But also,
Disney didn't own it at that point either.
True, I'm not as big of a Marvel fan as I am Star Wars, so I critique Star Wars probably a little bit more than anything else. But from someone who's watched those movies multiple times, the Marvel movies, there's not a whole lot that I see that is like glaringly dysfunctional, you know?
No, it all fits. It all fits very well within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like I'm not saying comparing it to the comics, comparing it to other source material. Within that cinematic universe that they've created, I mean, I've seen all of those movies dozens of times. It's all cohesive. It all works. It all flows. It all fits. It works beautifully.
And that's what's like.
But also, think about this. Kevin Feige was doing this whole thing, and he was doing it before it was bought by Disney. Like maybe that is that like the underlying factor is like they already had this thing going when they were acquired, whereas this new trilogy was literally a conceptualization of the Disney monster.
So what I imagine is, I mean, you think about it, you buy Lucasfilm from George Lucas, and within 3 years they have a movie out, like literally within 3 years, 3 years and like a month.
Yeah.
Right? And so the original movies, each movie came out with like 3 years from each other, right? So they.
Well, you mean like the original ones, or like yeah.
So they, from the time they bought it, from the time they released the movie, it was about the same time period from the time episode 2 to 3 came out, right? So they obviously didn't think it through, in my opinion. If you think about it, like I don't know what goes into making a movie or whatever, but it almost seems like they bought it as a way to make money for the trilogy. And again, I think to an extent, I fucking love Rogue One and a lot of the other stuff they're doing. But my main issue is with the trilogy and how it contradicts everything. Just contradicts. Like the first issue wrong with it is the fact that it's the Resistance first. I remember this specifically. Seeing like some of the first information we got was it was the Resistance versus the First Order. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like the Empire and the Rebellion are done. Like the Empire lost and the Rebellion is now the New Republic. Like, why are we rehashing something?
It's just an entire rehash of a story we've already heard. It's the same fucking thing over again. And Palpatine even came back. Like that was the villain to beat at the end of the sequel trilogy, which is the same villain they already fucking beat in the. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Palpatine, and I thought it was cool they came back. But like an overall picture, like that was stupid. That was stupid. And you know, like this whole thing about like, oh, they released it too soon. They weren't taking their time. I totally agree. And people are like, oh, well, they did it with Marvel. But the difference is there's so many different characters in Marvel, so many with their own plot lines, their own movies. So it's like, okay, Iron Man comes out this year, Captain America comes out the year after, which is fine because they're two totally separate plot lines that intersect in tiny little ways to eventually bring them together in the Avengers or whatever, right? Star Wars is totally different. It's the same characters, the same story, one movie after another. So you need to like, you can't just rush these fucking things out, man.
And to me, it was clear that they kind of did that. Like, there's so much that I feel like we keep bringing up the word contradictions. Like, I mean, there's a few obvious ones. Snoke, everyone at the end of episode 7, everyone's like, who the fuck is Snoke? There were so many questions of like, I've seen empires rise and fall. Like, where did he come from? Why? Like,
that was one of the biggest fucking tragedies of this sequel.
Nowhere. Just out of nowhere. Like why? Why?
Oh, Snoke was nobody. He didn't matter. Oh wait, no. Actually, Palpatine was basically controlling Snoke the whole entire time. Like, what the fuck? This is the most disjointed fuck up of the entire Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just a lot of it's bad storytelling. Like the First Order is part of the contingency, which was like, I mean, they allude to that in some of the books. Like it's Palpatine's contingency. They go out. They're gonna be the First Order, and you know a lot of the old Empire people go out there and they build up the First Order. Okay, how do they get the ships? Where do they come from? All out in the expanded or the unknown regions. I don't know. And then all of a sudden they come back and they're like the biggest thing ever. They're even better than the fucking Empire. How did that happen? Where did they come from? Why are they all of a sudden all better than even the Empire was?
None of it makes any fucking sense. There was clearly no thought. there wasn't enough thought and time put into all of this shit. And you know what I think one of the biggest problems is that like, so you go from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson to J.J. Abrams. However, the director handoff is not the problem because the original trilogy was George Lucas and then Lawrence Kasdan and then what's his nuts? I don't remember what his name is, but like the director handoff isn't the problem. George Lucas still had control over the story, over the direction that the movie was supposed to go. They had an idea.
Actually, Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas did both of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
There was a different Ross Marquand or different director.
Richard Marquand was
the director.
The story.
Screenplay, the story. That's what I'm saying. Like George Lucas still was in control. Like he wrote the whole thing out and was like, shit, I have to split this into 3 parts. Like he was still, there was one person saying, this is the story, this is the direction, and that happened with the prequel trilogy too. George Lucas was in control of everything. This is the story I want to tell. These are the things I want to happen. The sequel trilogy was, JJ's going to direct this one. We're going to oversee it. But then we're going to give complete creative control to Rian Johnson in the second one. And he can do whatever he wants. Oh, but then we're going to go back and have overseeing. Like there wasn't one person
to say, no,
we can't do that. This doesn't make sense. This is not there wasn't one person to say, we're going to make 3 movies. This is the story that we should tell. These are the things we need to hit. I'm overseeing this whole thing.
Obviously things change and, minute things from one movie to another may cause a slight change, and we're not suggesting that like George Lucas he clearly didn't have.
I'm sure he changed lots of stuff from movie to movie.
I don't think he even thought of the idea of Luke and Leia being related until after Empire Strikes Back. I'm like almost positive by that.
Probably not.
And that's like a major thing, but
the difference is
still fits.
He was the one deciding. It was one person.
Yeah.
It was a central place where all of these creative decisions were coming from.
And like you said earlier, bring it back to this about the independent film people, right? It was just him. It wasn't a studio coming in and saying
you have to do it this way. Exactly. That's the biggest fucking problem with this is these studio fucks trying. They think that they know what makes a good movie, what makes a good story, and they fucked it up beyond belief.
I agree, and I still to this day. Well, I mean, I'll still say that I liked Rise of Skywalker. I think it's good. I liked it for.
I was entertained.
Film. Yeah, but and I put most of the not most of it, but a lot of the blame on the state of the trilogy because of The Last Jedi, and that inherently goes to the top to some extent of like the top of the story group at Lucasfilm to be able to let him do that, but. Rise of Skywalker has its own, things that I don't like about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Like one thing, okay, so at the end of episode 8, they're on Crate, right? And they send out a last ditch effort distress call. People across the galaxy, listen, like, can you hear us? We're the resistance. We need you. The Republic is dead. The New Republic is dead. We're all we have. We're on a fucking Millennium Falcon. Like, what else do we have? There's nothing left. And no one answers them. 0 people answer them. But somehow Lando is able to fly across the fucking galaxy in like, I don't even know how many hours. Like, what is hyperspace even? Like, did he just transport from one thing to the other, another to thing? And then, but
it doesn't make any sense.
Like that alone, and then all those people coming would not make sense, right? But the fact that they had to fly through that like thing that was supposed to be some deterring thing to get to Exegol that's like only skilled pilots can get through. I mean, you think of Kylo Ren flying through that shit. Apparently, 0 people died going through that thing. Entire ships, like the fucking Tantive 4, was able to do it as easily as the maneuverable.
Was it actually the Tantive 4?
I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the Tantive.
No shit.
A Corellian Corvette was able to fucking do it with ease. You know what I mean? Like
not a Corellian. No, Corellian Corvette were the. Oh no, those were the Hammerheads. Never mind. I'm thinking of something else.
From Rogue One.
Yeah.
So like that's a huge thing. All right. You think about that. Another thing, like, okay, in The Last Jedi, directed by J.J. Abrams. You have General Hux.
The Last Jedi was not directed by J.J. Abrams. It was directed by Ryan Johnson.
I meant The Force Awakens. So in the books, they talk about General Hux. General Hux's father.
Like which book? Like the
Aftermath and
series.
Yeah, okay. He's in a few of them. He essentially is an Empire person that is part of the First Order, and he's part of the reason why they get kids at a early age and blah blah. And Hux was one of those people to come in at an early age, right? Mm. And
yeah,
like General Hux from the movies, Domhnall Gleeson or whatever his name is. And so given that, we know that he's been in the Empire his entire life. He's in The Force Awakens. He's the one giving the speech. He's the Hitler-like person.
He's the Hitler dude. He's like gung-ho hardcore about this shit.
So the end of the Republic, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
And within 2 movies, he says, fuck the entire First Order.
I'm a traitor. I don't care about anything.
I don't even care if we lose because of this. I just care that Kylo Ren loses. No, I'm sorry, but in a high-level position like that, you're not going to fuck over the entire thing. You're going to fuck over that person.
Dude, he literally goes from like being like a Peter Cushing, a Grand Moff Tarkin, like, I don't give a fuck if you have the Force. I have more power than you do, even though I don't actually have more power than you do, like literally, but like I have more authoritative power. I'm gonna do whatever I want. Like Grand Moff Tarkin was like he didn't give a fuck who said what. He was the shit, which is like the impression you get from General Hux in Force Awakens. Then
it's like an actual battle between the two of them, right? Like in the Force Awakens, it's like in one sense, the one that's in like not in charge, but the one that's curried favor from Snoke, and then what's his face? The Ren does then,
he literally like talks down to Ren all the time. He's like, you better fucking watch yourself. I don't care if you have the Force. I don't care if you're whatever. I'm fucking Hux. And then you go to Last Jedi, and he gets smacked around the whole fucking movie by Snoke.
Snoke is alive at this point too, right? So he gets disrespected in front of everyone with the whole paging General Hux. Like, to me, that's still
that's the worst fucking thing ever, dude. It was like
Jar Jar over that fucking line of dialogue.
You know what? And a lot of people I've talked to is like, oh, well, the movie should be funny. I'm like, yes, it should be
funny.
This is trying to be funny where it doesn't need to be funny.
I honestly think that's something the Rise of Skywalker did pretty well. There were some things in that were pretty funny that I don't think were
but it wasn't
over
like
the top.
It wasn't like that was forced. It doesn't feel like it's forced, right? It's like this is a natural comical moment, because there were plenty of natural comical moments in the original trilogy, plenty of them,
and the prequels. You know what I mean? So.
But like so Hux, and then he go into Last Jedi. He gets smacked around by Snoke. He gets smacked around by Rey. He gets made not Rey, Ren. He becomes Ren's bitch essentially.
Yeah.
And then you go to Rise of Skywalker, and now he's a traitor. And now he's just trying. It's like he's just like, fuck everything. I don't care.
Nowhere he's a traitor. And another thing. Here's another like major contradiction that I don't see any like retconning for. It just doesn't make sense. Like, wasn't there a point when Snoke wanted to literally kill Rey?
When?
In episode 8, right? Like he wanted Kylo to kill her.
Oh yeah, he's like, I will break you and then I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Or something. He said something like that, like when he was like torturing her kind of deal, like.
Yeah. And then also in episode 7, didn't Snoke want him to kill her? Didn't Snoke want Ren to kill Rey? Wasn't that a thing?
Not that I remember. In 7?
I'm almost positive. In
7?
That maybe it's not 7, but
I don't know that he openly came out and said, you need to kill this person who's rising up in the light. I don't remember that.
All I'm getting to is why, when he had her on his ship, didn't he say, okay, Kylo, put her in these chains. We're going to Exegol.
Why would he do that? Oh, because Palpatine was controlling them.
Palpatine was Snoke.
Because they didn't know that because that's part of the whole disjointed thing. I don't think that they were planning on doing that at that point. They had no idea what the fuck they were doing. There was no consistency. There was no continuity. There was no overhead continuity direction from anybody. They just kept passing creative control from one person to the other, which I think ultimately, along with other things, obviously, which ultimately is why it's the worst fucking trilogy in the face of the planet.
And also another thing, okay, there's a few things with Anakin's original lightsaber. Well, first of all, Disney keeps marketing it as Rey's lightsaber. Get the fuck out of here. It's Anakin's lightsaber first.
Anakin's lightsaber. Okay. It's always been Anakin's lightsaber.
So now, first of all, in episode 7, it calls to Rey. Why is it called to Rey? Why isn't it called to Ben? Like, why would it call to Rey
shit.
in any sense?
It shouldn't. There's no reason for it to. I have no idea.
She's like the beacon of the light. I don't know. Maybe there's things with the Force. That's fine.
Maybe it has something to do with their what was it called? What is Palpatine called? A dyad in the Force. Yeah.
And I'll accept that. That's fine. Force is mysterious. Does a lot of things that blah blah.
Maybe it was like, oh, Ben's not worthy of it, and that's whatever.
Yeah. Now, okay, there's that. But Maz Kanata says to her, like, hey, Han, doesn't Han say it? Maybe Han says it. Like, how would you get that lightsaber? And she's like, a story for another time. Take this.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that story?
Another story for another time. We never heard that story.
Where's that story? That's a pretty big story.
There's so many holes. There's so many plot. Ugh. I'm just getting more and more frustrated the longer we fucking talk about this, man.
So now there's that. I don't know if it's ever talked about, but in episode 8, fucking the lightsaber gets pulled apart, breaks. Right? They're force pulling it, see who gets it, blah blah blah, and then it breaks. Right? But in episode 9, she has it again. Where'd it come from?
What the fuck?
Did I miss something? I rewatched the trilogy. I don't remember missing anything. I'm pretty sure.
I don't either, man. Maybe there's something that we're missing, but I don't remember what it was. And if we don't remember what it was, it clearly wasn't that apparent. So, like, it definitely was destroyed, and it's not really that easy to rebuild a lightsaber, especially with someone who has none to very little training. So, like, how the fuck? I don't know. There also wasn't as much. I don't know that we've talked about this, but like all of the fucking edits that were made from JJ's original cut to what we saw on screen. There's so many things. And you
we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Did we actually talk about it like on one of our
we talked about the Rise of Skywalker.
We did? Okay.
Yeah.
But like all those things were like and along those same lines, I was like reading this thing recently about Colin Trevorrow's, however the hell you say his name, who was originally supposed to direct episode 9. His script apparently was really fucking good. And I was reading some of the stuff, and some of it sounded pretty interesting, but then other stuff was like, what the fuck is that? Like there wasn't going to be a Palpatine. There was going to be this new Sith, weird spider creature in a swamp, which again kind of felt like a reiteration of Luke going and finding Yoda versus Ben or Kylo or whatever the fuck you want to call him going and finding this other Sith Lord. There were some weird outlandish things, but there were also some other things in there that were pretty cool, and apparently it was a lot better script than people give him credit for. And he left because they were like, Disney was trying to like be like, no, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and he's like, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but when we first heard Colin Trevorrow was going to be the director, we were kind of upset about it because
we really didn't like Jurassic Park or not Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. Like such huge fans of the original Jurassic Parks, and then Jurassic World come out. I'm like, this is kind of fucking stupid.
And another thing, so we have the old canon, right, which is called Legends now.
Right. I
feel like there was more cohesion between that, which was like 80 different authors doing 80 different stories.
100%.
Like even now, there's a Poe comic book where I'm pretty sure that like his whole backstory is his mom was part of the rebellion. He's been this ace pilot his whole life, and kind of in line with Star Wars Resistance. Now, Resistance, where they had like those ace pilots. I don't know if you watched
the cartoon. I actually haven't watched that at all.
They have like these ace pilots who are just like really good pilots that are perform like they race, and I've only seen through I think half of season 1. Anyway, what I'm getting at is this whole thing is his mom was part of the rebellion. Like to me, I bought that. Like, okay, yeah, he's part of the Resistance. He loves the Resistance so much because he hates everything that these evil people stand for, because he's got that from his parents or whatever. But then all of a sudden,
Right.
in Rise of Skywalker, he was a spice runner, like a smuggler guy. Like what? I don't know. It seems not that those are necessarily mutually exclusive. Like he could do both.
Sure, but
money on the side to kind of blah blah blah. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem to fit. Maybe I'm nitpicking there. But
even with the Legends, like the books and everything else they came out with, even fit in with the video games that they came out with too. Like I'm like thinking about like Jedi Knight. Jedi Outcast or Jedi whatever the like the trilogy series of like Jedi Knight was. Like Luke was like the new Yoda of like the new Jedi Order, and like he was like it was so cohesive between video games, between books, between so many different authors and so many different storytellers, and it still all somehow fit together. And now all the shit that we're dealing with is just like a big fucking pile of not a big pile of shit, because some of it is good, but it's like it's not cohesive. Like a lot of it isn't cohesive.
Yeah, I mean, God, I mean the cohesiveness of this. Like, if you had to point to one thing that you hate the most out of the Disney trilogy, that's what a lot of people call it, not the sequel trilogy, not the original trilogy, prequel trilogy, Disney.
It's trilogy. The Disney trilogy. I like that.
Like, what is the one thing you probably would point to that it most infuriates you about what has happened?
Luke Skywalker.
Fucking, you stole the goddamn it, man.
Is that what you were going to say too?
Like, yes, dude.
Luke. I mean,
look,
and I think Mark Hamill himself would agree with us.
I probably.
I know that he would.
Don't get me wrong. Like, they were kind of put into a pickle, right, with the death of Carrie Fisher. I feel like that kind of threw a wrench a little bit into some plans in terms of what they. Because I think. I remember hearing a while ago is that 7 was Han's movie, 8 was Luke's movie, 9 was Leia's movie, and while it kind of still fit that mold to some extent, I feel like they were kind of put into a little bit of a pickle there. But
I will say this about that is I thought that they handled the whole Carrie Fisher passing and being able to use old footage. It fit beautifully. They did it so, and I wonder if that's part of some of the setbacks of the movies, because they had to form the story around her, because they were never gonna. They said from the beginning they were never gonna like CGI her. They needed to like that just felt wrong, and I agree.
Yeah,
but it felt like, because all those scenes were shot during episode 7. Didn't feel like that for a second when you were watching it at all.
There's one thing about Star Wars as a whole, Lucasfilm, and the things that they do that I don't ever have an issue with, is ILM and their ability to do crazy things with special effects. I guess that's not fully the case. There are some questionable things back on the re-release of the original trilogies, but
that's when they were still like in a garage fucking.
And you still have to also give credit to J.J. Abrams and the story group to be able to mold that together into something that seemed believable. So I do give them credit for that.
I give them 100% credit. It was seamless. It was fantastic. I was actually very shocked. I'm like, oh my god, this whole thing makes sense, and it's actually her, and you were able to make the story like. I
don't know why, but I thought it was going to be like literally the same backdrops. You know, just like take footage that was filmed here. You know, this whole like window of Leia, and put that into episode 9. But
right.
No,
it wasn't that. No.
The best, Photoshop job of all time. They put her in the fucking, like, they cut around her and put her in the scenes. Like, that was really well done. I mean, I'm not an expert.
I was literally shocked. It was like, wow. But getting back
Luke
to
Skywalker.
So we talk a lot about how much we hate The Last Jedi. And there are lots of things I dislike about it, but the biggest thing is what they did to Luke's character. Like, that's not Luke. That's not that. And the big problem is that we have, it's not canon anymore, but we have all of this source material about who Luke was, what he believed in, his strength of will, and all of this stuff. Like, he was the person who saw the
rebuilt
good in the
Order.
Most evil person in the entire, aside from Palpatine probably, but second most evil person in the entire universe. He saw the good in him and somehow miraculously was able to save him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
On his deathbed. But like and then we see The Last Jedi. and this same person who has this unbending will, this unbending belief in what he's doing and seeing the good in people, is the same dude who looked into his nephew's dreams and saw some darkness, so he was trying to kill him. And
so we have a lot from the expanded universe, right? That's cool, and he literally rebuilt the entire Jedi Order. Like, so we do have this whole Legends thing.
He was Yoda 2.0. I mean, kind of like,
I would say more like Obi-Wan 2.0. Like, he was a perfect Jedi. Like,
sure, yeah. That's another good
episode.
Yeah.
How awesome fucking Obi-Wan is. Right?
Oh yeah,
but leave that aside. Just have canon movie-based things, right? That's all we need. And you touched on some of that, right? You touched on the fact that Luke thought that Vader would be savable, his father. A guy he never met in his life, this dude that literally is the second most destructive force in the fucking galaxy, this evil dude.
Oh my God.
Saw the light in that, right?
He was the only person who was like, no, there's good in you. I can feel it.
Yeah. And then you think about it, from episode 9, so I'm jumping forward a little bit, but from episode 9, we do know that Luke was on the trail of Palpatine, right? Him and Lando were scouting things. He got so close to finding Exegol to be able to get there.
Right. So
he knew something was up and all this other stuff, and that was 6 years before episode 7, but after he did that shit with Kylo Ren, I think. I don't remember if that's the time frame, but in that
that's the problem. It's so disjointed. We don't.
He saw a dream and was like, "This guy's gonna kill people. I'm gonna kill him." But also, he knew Palpatine was back, or that something fishy was going on with the dark side because he was searching for it. But given those two things, he still said, "I'm gonna kill my nephew, and then afterwards, I'm going to go
to an island and never talk to anybody else again."
To someone, to the point where,
it doesn't make any sense.
His father. He grew up not knowing his dad, wanting to know everything about his dad. And granted, there's a lot of time between 6 and 7. But the moment he gets his old lightsaber back that he lost to his dad, he lost it battling his dad. The dad that he saved. The dad that he saw the light in and said, there's still good in him. I'm going to save him. He does. And he's like, how would that not be like oh my God, I fucking did that to my dad. And he gets his lightsaber back and he's just like, I don't want this.
No, I don't get throw it away. And then you go to, and then you fast forward to Rise of Skywalker, and Rey tries to throw his lightsaber, and Luke's like, you should never treat a Jedi's weapon so disrespectfully. I'm like, they're clearly shitting on whatever they did. And you know what? So just to backpedal a little bit, when obviously that's my like biggest fucking gripe with the Disney trilogy is Luke Skywalker and how they portrayed him. And when I talk to people who enjoy the movies, they like throw all these arguments out, and I keep going back to, again, it's not canon, but this is the source material that we grew up with. This is what we know Luke to be, and this is also somebody who his nephew, again, different person, it was Jason Solo at the time, was turned into a horrible fucking human being. Darth Caedus, he killed lots of people, he was evil as fuck, and the only reason when Luke fought him that he didn't win is because he couldn't bring himself to kill his own nephew. This is that person. But then you fast forward to Rise of Skywalker, and he's like, oh, you had a bad dream. I should probably kill you so you don't turn evil. This is someone who had already turned evil and was destroyed. Like, he was the new Sith. Like, he was like the beginning of the rise of the Sith again. Like, kind of like yeah.
In the new Jedi Order, yeah.
But he couldn't bring himself to kill him, so his twin sister Jaina had to come and do it for him. But oh wait, just kidding. That's not actually Luke. Luke will just kill anybody who has a bad dream so that they don't become evil. I don't even know like what to say,
dude. So there's big things like that. Then there's little things like the fact. Okay, here's another. This is minor, and it's not like, maybe I'm nitpicking at this point, but okay, think about it. They're on Crate, right? They're all behind they're following those like ice foxes, and they go between those stones, and they're like, oh shit, all hope is lost. And then all of a sudden, this Jedi comes out of nowhere and saves them all. All the while, Leia's standing right fucking there and is apparently a fucking Jedi this entire time that can use the Force whenever the fuck she wants. She was trained by Luke, decided to turn it off. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? I don't even get it.
And again, I don't think that came as much as a surprise to us because, in again the expanded universe now, Legends, Leia had Force, and they went into that a little bit.
I get it, but like 7 and 8
like
were to expect
there was
that she
nothing
can only use the Force to save her life or something.
Right?
Like, just come on.
It came out of nowhere.
Why didn't she?
There was no we knew Leia was the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Force user in the history of what we know, and sister to Luke, who was also an extremely talented Force user. But they never mentioned anything about her being able to use the Force, about her being able to nothing. And then all of a sudden in Rise of Jedi, or The Last Jedi, she gets blown into outer space and is able to survive it and pull herself back into a ship, even though we've never seen a smidge, a hint of her being able to use the Force in any capacity. And then, she trained with Luke a shitload when she was younger.
In episode 8, right? We did see her use the Force to pull herself floating space Leia.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
We saw that.
Oh, okay.
That came out of nowhere. And
then
to me, that was fast forward to Rise of Skywalker.
Right?
She trained with Luke this whole entire time, and she put her own lightsaber, and she was a fucking badass, and she was all this other shit, and she was training Rey.
That's the worst part. Not the worst part, but that's like the biggest what the fuck part. Like, okay, I can take the you trained with, or I can take the you can use the Force to save yourself because instincts kicked in. I can see the you trained with Luke, but you saw that your training would lead to your son's death, and you're like, fuck, I got to cut myself off in the Force. I get that.
But we didn't know it. They didn't do any of that.
She's training Leia or Rey.
She's training Rey.
I don't know.
Like the reason Rey is the badass that she is in Episode 9 is because Leia trained her. Huh? Where did that come from?
But apparently, and it's one thing I don't like is that, like, I'm a little bit in between. Rey is thought of as like a Mary Sue. You know what a Mary Sue is?
No, I do not.
So Mary Sue is like essentially like a woman that is just super overpowered, right? A female character who's depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses.
Why is it called Mary Sue? Where does it come from?
I don't know. I'm not gonna click into the Wikipedia page, but they called her like a Mary Sue, and
who they called Rey a Mary Sue?
Yeah.
Okay,
because like all of a sudden she can fight Rey or Kylo Ren, who's trained in battle. She's never touched it.
Well, she was a Palpatine.
I mean, that's where I fall in between. Like, I did see this thing where like every single person in the entire Star Wars saga has failed, except for Rey.
What do you mean?
Something. Like, you think about Kylo, or you go all the way back. Go back to Qui-Gon Jinn.
Luke didn't fail.
He failed against, what's his face? The Darth Vader. I mean, he lost his hand. He almost
I
died.
see what you're saying. Like not like in the end, but they have failed along their path.
They have failures.
I see.
I don't see a failure ever.
Shit.
In Rey.
Interesting. You're right. I never really
not only does she
thought about
succeed,
that.
she's better than everyone else in everything she does.
What about Obi-Wan? He failed with Anakin.
Like, that's the
that's like the worst fucking failure in all of Star Wars.
It's not all his
storytelling.
fault, but I mean,
I
have failed you, Anakin. I mean, he admits to it. Full on, like full stop.
I mean, it kind of is his fault. Like, let's be real. Like, Obi-Wan wasn't. It's Obi-Wan's fault.
Failed a little bit. I mean, he died.
He died.
Like, he got killed by some scrub Sith. I mean, not to say he's a
Yoda failed to not realize that the Sith Lord was right under his nose the entire fucking time. And then Yoda failed to beat Emperor Palpatine and went into exile.
Lost I have. Like, he even admits to it. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
nothing she does.
Failed I have is what he said.
Failed I have, yeah.
So literally, he admits to failing. And then, right, Luke gets his hand cut off, loses to Vader. trying to think of other failure examples. And now you're really getting me thinking now. I'm like, okay, what did Rey do where she failed? And she didn't.
There was that time she cut that stone off when she didn't mean to. Failure. Boom. I guess I'm proven wrong. My bad. But
oh my gosh, you know what? This is a total sidebar. But I saw this thing on Reddit where the fight that Rey is doing against that rock is almost 100% mimicked with Kylo Ren fighting Force Ghost or Force, whatever the fuck you want to call him, Luke on Crate. Like the moves that they do are exactly the same. They played it like frame by frame, cool. And it's literally the move. They like show Rey do 3 moves, and they show Kylo, and he does the exact same 3 moves to Luke, and they go back to Rey, and she does 3 more moves to this rock, and Kylo does the exact same 3. I was like, wow, okay, that's sweet. Too bad the story sucked ass.
Yeah.
But no. Anyway, I digress. What the fuck are we talking about?
I don't know, but let's go to the last thing. Last question I have for you. What are your thoughts on Reylo?
Oh, man.
Like in the moment, I didn't hate it. Like the whole thing. And they kind of set it up in episode 8. But like, I don't understand. Like, he was pretty rapey the whole time. Like we're literally watching episode 7, and he's like talking to her like when they first meet, and he takes his helmet off, and he's like I don't remember the exact words, but he says something along the lines of like you don't give me what I want, I'll take it. And, and Nora's like, that was really rapey. It's like, yeah, that's super rapey. Like, what the fuck, dude? And like, she goes from you're a monster, I hate everything about you,
to kissing him,
to like in episode 7 to somehow knowing that he's also a monster in episode 8, but also being kind of like old Luke in episode 6 and 5, who knows that there's still light in him. And
honestly, man,
I don't get it.
Just like the rest of the story throughout the whole entire Disney trilogy, it's flawed, disconnected, and has lots of plot holes.
And that's another thing. They start with the idea that Rey and Finn are gonna kind of be romantically linked, and I'm okay with them not being. Like, I'm not saying that like it should have been Finn instead. I think
no, but you kind of got that feeling in episode 7, and then they just were like, no, Finn's gonna be in love with Rose, and then they got to episode 9, and then they were like, nope, Finn is in love with no one. Maybe he's gay, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, in episode 9, they're like, Rose who?
Yeah, exactly. Rose was in like what, 5 minutes,
and then they like. I mean, I think it was about the Force, and I think it was ultimately kind of confirmed that it was about the Force. But when I first watched, I thought that that Finn was gonna be telling Rey like, "Yo, I have something to tell you. Yo, dude, I secretly love you. I want to fuck you." But like, I mean, I think
right. That's what we're all waiting for.
I mean, to me, that was one of the other last things that I did not like about it. I mean, however, can you imagine a Skywalker Palpatine child? Do you think they slipped it in at some point? Do you think they slipped it in? Like,
I fucking hope to God that they did, because
I want to see some.
That kid has got to be the most badass Force user ever. I mean, shit. You got Palpatine, who created the Chosen One. You got Skywalker, who is the Chosen One. And the offspring of that? Holy fucking shit.
The two forces that like brought the galaxy to its knees, in which case one of them had offspring that fucking...
And then brought the galaxy back to its feet.
And then all of a sudden, the other one brought the galaxy back to its knees in the same storyline.
Dude.
And then the other one decided to be... Oh, wait, but then that offspring brought the galaxy back to its... original form before, and decided to become the other one. So,
do you know what I think about quite often?
Wait, can we summarize this real quick? So, a Palpatine created a Skywalker.
Created the Skywalkers.
Yeah, created the Skywalker. A Palpatine took over the galaxy, brought it to his knees alongside of a Skywalker. A offspring of Skywalker took the other Skywalker back, and then they brought order to the galaxy, or a balance to the Force.
Took it from a Palpatine and brought it back
from a Palpatine. Yeah, and then that same Palpatine brought the galaxy back to its knees, and then its Palpatine offspring decided it was a Skywalker offspring and brought the galaxy back to its original form. That's the Skywalker saga as a whole.
Literally that description is the best description I've ever heard of the whole entire Star Wars saga. And the most hilarious and ridiculous thing I've ever encountered as well. Like,
I mean,
what?
Why does anybody even need to watch the movies? They should just listen.
That was it. That was it. The 17 seconds is all you need. That's all you need, folks. That 17 seconds tells you all you need to know. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Well, what I can say is, given all that, let's bring it back to where we were before and how excited we actually are about Star Wars. Because I am still super excited about Star Wars.
Do you know that's the great thing about being a Star Wars fan? Same with like being a Browns fan.
There's always next year.
There's always next year. It's something you just grow up with, and you love it to such a pure and intense level that, like, no matter how it disappoints you, there's always a new hope. Oh,
damn, son! Yeah, I mean, there is though, and this new hope this year is Clone Wars Season 7. Okay. Also, let's reel it back a little bit. Okay, now think about it for a second. People are talking about how Star Wars is a failure, right? Solo, not Star Wars is a failure as a whole, but like this, what Disney's doing is a total failure.
Don't get me started on the Solo thing, dude,
Episode 9 is limping across the $1 billion mark, and I get that. That's fine. And people have Star Wars fatigue.
Surprised it's to the $1 billion mark.
Don't you know, according to Forbes and Business Insider and Time and Vox and all these other places, that Star Wars is just making people, they have Star Wars fatigue. Don't you know that? But except that's totally wrong, and evidence for that is how massively successful and how every Star Wars fan loves The Mandalorian.
Oh, dude.
You give a good fucking story, you will have good reaction to that story.
Yep. There's no such thing as Star Wars fatigue. There's such thing as shit Star Wars content.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Shit Star Wars movie. They're not going to see the next Star Wars
people
movie.
Who don't really know that much about Star Wars are the biggest Mandalorian fans. Like, they did something so beautiful and so amazing and so perfect. Like, wow. This is the best thing we've gotten out of Star Wars in a really long time.
I mean, here's the thing. I put Rogue One up there alongside him, and I still think Mandalorian is better. I think so. Like, my favorite Star Wars since Disney is Mandalorian, 100%. Like, I love Mandalorian. I thought it was awesome. And then it goes Rogue One, and then Solo. They're like right in line with each other. And then it probably goes 7, 9, 8, where 8 is so far below.
I would go. Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Yep, that's where.
So did you say
Rogue One or Solo first?
I said Rogue One first.
Yep. Okay.
Don't give me the shit that like people are tired of Star Wars. No, I'm tired of shit Star Wars. Stop giving me shit Star Wars, and I'll stop talking shit about Star Wars.
Exactly. And and it's different for them too, because like everyone up to this point before Disney took over, we got one movie every 3 years, and that was it.
Yeah,
a couple occasional books, but not the mass population doesn't read the books and go into the comics and do the video games and all that stuff. And, like for the mass population, you get one movie every 3 years, have like a, 8-10 year break in between
it was like 19 or
trilogies,
16 years between the first two trilogies, and then it was
a massive break. So I think it's like 16, it's more 10. Like people aren't used to getting so much mainstream Star Wars content, maybe, but at the same time, it's not Star Wars fatigue. It's shit content.
And you look at the numbers generated by the
like no one's complaining about Marvel fatigue. No.
So I have something to say about that. But for a second, if you think about this, all right, Episode 1 came out, and there hadn't been a Star Wars movie in 16 years, right?
Right.
And there was a lot of hype around it.
Right.
While it did do well, it didn't, like, Revenge of the Sith still did way better. Granted, it was the end, but so was Rise of Skywalker. You know what I mean? But it didn't do better than Force Awakens.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there was clearly a little bit of momentum, a little bit of break in between that the prequel trilogy had that was able to make each movie successfully better than the last, right?
Well, let's also say that like Force Awakens was maybe, this is just pulling out of my ass, but like 10 times more marketed than any of the other movies. In that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh my
in one of
God.
our last movies or podcasts.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There's
the
Star Wars
hype,
oranges.
the marketing, all the shit that was, because this was
cupcakes.
Star Wars coming back after like a long time, and like we never thought we would get another Star Wars movie again.
Technically, it was 7 years after the last movie with the Clone Wars. But that doesn't count.
I'm not fucking counting that shit.
And then the other thing with like Star Wars versus Marvel fatigue, and I think that's why they ultimately chose the way that they did. And we talked about this too, where like it's not Star Wars, Rogue One, Star Wars, so it's Rogue One, a Star Wars
story.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like they kind of they recognize that to an extent. And then when Solo didn't do well, they blamed it on the fact that they released it too quickly. And I do think they released that too quickly. They shouldn't have done it 6 months. They should have done it a year later.
Maybe, but do you really think that would have mattered that much, man?
I do. I mean, in terms of box office success, I do. I think because I think a lot of people were salty about episode 8, and rightfully so. I mean, it is the worst, one of the worst critically accepted movies on Rotten Tomato in terms of Star Wars movies. Yeah. And within 6 months, people aren't forgetting that easily. Another 6 months, again, not all people would have forgotten, whatever. But I do think it would have done better at the box
if they would have waited a little bit longer.
I don't know why they didn't do the 1 year thing. 1 year. Because
they've got that whole Marvel thing on the mind, where they released 3 movies a fucking year.
And we did. It's funny though. We did say that they have the blueprint, right? They do have a somewhat of a blueprint in terms of how to be successful.
They do, and they've done it. They've proved it, and obviously, and honestly, it made sense because Solo is a completely different, disconnected storyline. It has nothing to do with the mainline trilogy that they were doing. Well, yeah, but it's like a totally disconnected plotline. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with the
story itself. Yeah. Whereas like Rogue One is the opposite of that, where they didn't have any major characters until the end. But it was part of the how did they get the Death Star plan? Like essentially what happened in Solo is inconsequential to the whole thing. Like you don't need to watch any of Solo to get any context into anything within the rest of the galaxy. Rest of the films.
No.
Whereas you gain extra context in Rogue One. You don't do that with Solo. With Rogue One, you're gonna see how they got the plans. You know what I mean? Solo, I don't really think there's a whole. Not saying.
You find out how Han got the Millennium Falcon. You find out how he met Chewie. You find out how he met Lando. You get a lot of extra content from a lot of different things.
It's as consequential to the storyline as Rogue One is.
Agreed.
That's kind of what I'm getting.
But agreed, because it led to how they took down the Death Star, and it literally ends where Episode 4 begins, which is
awesome.
Oh my God,
I fucking loved it.
Fucking fantastic. But again, it's about shit Star Wars content, not too much, and then people can't. No.
Yeah,
people want more Star Wars stuff.
I want more Star Wars.
Everybody, sure. I was in the beginning. I'm super excited that Disney. Oh, sweet! Disney's acquiring Lucasfilms. Oh my God, we're getting so much Star Wars stuff. But too bad. It's all
a lot of it sucks.
70% of it is trash.
The main trilogy that they came up with sucked. Anyway, let's wrap this up. I think we did about half of the Rise of Skywalker podcast was dedicated to shitting on this trilogy. We've now dedicated almost an entire about an hour now in this episode to shitting on this.
It's hard to not shit on a dung pile, dude.
But let's not end it on a bad note. I'm excited. I love where we're at. It gives us more time to sit here in front of these mics and talk to each other about this shit. And I don't know.
You love where we're at?
I love the fact that there's more Star Wars on the way.
I love the hope of having more good Star Wars stuff. I'm not confident that we're going to get it.
To
be honest,
they put it into Dave Filoni's hands. They put a lot of it into Dave Filoni's hands. I think we'll be all right. I think the fact that we have people like Jon Favreau on board. I mean, Dave Filoni
also agree.
Both of the two big things coming this year. And he needs to be the story.
Yeah, and it sounds like because of the massive success of Mandalorian that they're gonna give John and Dave more creative control overall as far as Star Wars goes.
I hope so.
Which is nothing but fantastic news because those are both hardcore, amazing, in-depth Star Wars fans, Star Wars nerds who've been that way since.
Agreed. Yep.
They were
all the
children. Everything Dave Filoni has done for Star Wars has been
Dave Filoni's been around since 2007, 2006 or something like that. Like he's been around for a while, like one of the longer term story people in the entire Lucasfilm.
What was he doing in 2007?
I mean, Clone Wars came out in 2008. So
that's right. That's right. He was doing Clone Wars. He didn't do the original Cartoon Network Clone Wars, did he?
No, I don't think so. So anyway, let's wrap this up. Let's see. We talked a little bit about Clone Wars. We shit all over the Disney trilogy, and now we're gonna end it here. Is there anything else you had?
Yeah. The worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars was Disney.
The worst thing that ever happened to Skywalker.
Well, you know what?
Worst thing that ever happened to the Skywalker saga.
I want to recant
the Lucasfilm story group under Disney.
I want to recant that because we have gotten a shitload of content since they've picked it up.
It's great.
I just think that they
Star
need
Wars
to...
Land. Dude, come on. I can't wait to see that shit.
God.
Apparently, Rise of the Resistance is dope, and we will have a guest on in a couple weeks who will have gone to that.
We will.
Before us. Can you fucking believe that?
Yeah, fuck her. In all honesty, Disney picking up Lucasfilms has overall been a good thing because we
started this podcast
way more Star Wars content in the last
6 years?
6 years than we had in 20 years.
More well, we would have kept having books, but now it just canceled the old books and brought in new books, so I have more books to read. So that's cool.
Overall, it's good because it's just so much Star Wars stuff, which is awesome. I just really hope that they figure out how to take the quantity and equal it to the quality.
Well,
which so far some of it has been very good. But
we'll see how it goes.
Most of it has not most of it, but a lot of it has been shit, man.
Well, I feel like we'll call it a day there. Let's see. Hit us up on RoTKast.com, RoTKast.com. Thanks to our sponsors, which we'll have someday maybe. And outside of that, I don't know. Hit us up.
I love the thing where like they always go through. Thanks to this person who's donated, and we're just like, thanks to the people who will maybe have one day. If
we'll get them someday.
We ever make it to that point.
All right, we'll hit you guys up in another week. We've been hitting it out pretty lately, like
once you know what? Week. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Tune in every Monday for a new episode of Rule of Two podcast. We are pumping them out. We're here to stay. We are massive Star Wars fans, even though it seems like we kind of
get
hate
that
it
from the last two
recently.
podcasts. But we are, and we will keep bringing out some content. We'll talk to you guys.
The thing is,
the next one,
we're loyal.
We're
here to stay. Tune in next week.
Peace.
Later.